Hey guys, it's Eric here with Sacred Forge Healing, doing our weekly reading for January 12th through the 19th. There is some construction going on at my neighbor's house, so if you guys are hearing that, that's what's going on. Not the best, but here we are. So as I've been feeling into the energy, there are kind of some messages that want to come through in regards to kind of your intention that you're going into this week with. A visualization that they're kind of giving me is bowling, which is interesting. So with bowling, whenever you can aim as much as you can, right, on the lane, but once you let it go, it's out of your hands. And that feels very applicable for a lot of us as we're going through these changes. I mean, there are definitely some energies making sure it's like keep yourself grounded, keep yourself on track, of course. But there is an element or energy that's very present this week of like, once you've done it, just let it go and see what happens. Because even if you do the best throw that you can or roll, I guess, in the bowling analogy, there's only so much you can do. And then once you let it go, any number of things can move that ball from the left to the right. Could be the spin that you did. It could be the lane isn't as waxed as it could be, and so that's affecting it. Right? There's lots of things that are wanting to come forward in that way where we do as much as we can and then we let go. For a lot of you, and they're including me in this, and I'm including myself in this, we have trouble kind of letting go into that change. It's like we want to be a little bit of the controller and trying to help like manage it. What they're saying in that regard is that we get tired, right? There's only so much willpower that we can manifest, and then it becomes difficult for us to keep going with these changes. So they're asking you to give yourself a little grace in this week as you're moving forward, right? Still do the things that you need to do, of course, but giving yourself a little bit of grace as you're moving into this time of change. I feel like one of the big things, I mean, we are in January, we've hit the new year, right? So people who have made New Year's resolutions, remember that they're not all going to happen at once when we hold ourselves to that. I mean, some people are very good about that, but for most other people, we're not, and that's okay. But kind of giving ourselves a little grace with that, not giving us an excuse for laziness or anything like that, but knowing that, I guess you'll say, the Great Wall of China was not built in one day, right? Or anything isn't built in one day. It's over time that we have to continue to show up. And so as you're going through this week, they're asking you to show up in the best way that you can with what you're going through, whether it is changing some habits, start small, and then work up towards the bigger things. If you're running, if you're doing those physical activities, making sure your body has adequate rest before you're doing that. We can get to the point where we want to make a lot of excuses for that, and I understand human nature. But they're asking us to, again, do as much as we can in that regard to kind of further ourselves in what we're going through or what we're trying to work towards, whether it be changing our attitude, our mindset, kind of the same thing, not different, but or habits or anything like that are kind of coming up right now. They're wanting you to say, I am working towards this. This is part of my goal, my eventuality. I'm going to keep showing up in the best way that I can every day to make sure that's going to happen. And for the days that you don't, to give yourself a little grace. I think that's the big message that's coming through this week, is remember that you can't always control everything, and that's okay. We might always want to control everything, but that's not how it's going to go. So I did pull 2 cards as well to kind of go with our reading here today. They're wanting at least 1 card from this deck as well. So big energies to keep in mind. So this is from the Light Activation Oracle. So we have intention as prayer. It says, create your reality with awareness in each moment. So you can think of this card showing up as a big cue for mindfulness as we're going through this, right? Of being mindful that there's only so much that we can do before we have to hand it over. And I feel like that's where, again, where the prayer comes in, where, do all that you can and then hand it over to God, to Spirit, to Source, the angels, however you want to, or work with Spirit. That's, a personal thing. There, in regards to this as well, yes, spirituality can be quite serious, but there is also a lightheartedness that they're wanting to impart in regards to this card. They're wanting you to have a little bit more fun with it. Remember that if everything becomes so serious all the time that it's going to make it hard for energy to be moving. Remember, laughter can be medicine. Reminder though, I'm not a doctor, not a therapist or anything. So, but laughter can be great medicine for the soul, we'll say. And they're wanting you just to be a little bit more lighthearted in what you do. So making sure you're taking time to find those moments of joy within yourself, whether it's, watching some comedy, talking to friends, making jokes, doing something that can help lift you up in this time. As if you're going from a state of always wanting to control everything and then trying to release it, that can be quite hard because it feels like you're always supposed to be doing something. So this is a good week to try to release a little bit of that mentality so that you can move on and do other things, right? And that time can be spent with helping yourself in some way, meditating, going and getting a massage for yourself if you haven't been taking care of yourself lately. There's a big energy around this in regards to the brain, though, which is interesting. Some of you who are watching this, it feels like what you are trying to work towards is too big for you. And so there is kind of an energy that's going around and around and around and around in the brain. It's kind of getting stuck there. So you're having a hard time putting mental work into physicality. So they are wanting you to spend a bit more time being physical in that regards, maybe going on walks, dancing, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, however that you can get your body moving, because that's going to get some of the brain or some of the energy from the brain area also moving. And that way you can start working and getting it onto paper. So for you who are having a lot of ideas right now, making sure you are actually taking time to write them down as it grounds the energy through you. So in that regard, we also have body earth contact. It says physically connect with nature, feet on the earth. So making sure you're spending that time to stay grounded as best you can. For those who don't like going outside, go outside still. But there are things called grounding mats that you can use if you're, squeamish about the earth. Everyone has their thing. But there are things that are called earthing mats that can be quite useful. Do your own research in that regard. But there is an energy of balance that comes with this, again, of bringing these things through us and down onto the page. So if you're kind of going through a visionary time where you're having lots of ideas, make sure you write them down. And don't just write them down, but start working on them or doing something that's towards an end in that regard. That's going to be very important for some of you. 4? Okay. So we have 4 cards here. These are going to be stuff. This doesn't feel like it's just for this week. We shall see. 1, yeah, yes, no. 2. So we have 4 cards from the Power of Surrender deck. So we have, interesting. So we have surrender to non-action. So now is the time to be still and not act. Simply breathe and focus on your own power. Let others come to you. So again, we have that do all that you can and then hand it over to Spirit, so that way you can allow help to come to you. We have surrender comparisons with other people. It says keep your eyes trained on yourself, focus on your own strength, attractiveness, and power. Right? So with January being the way that it is and the way that it feels, there's a lot of call for self-reflection as you're going through this time of connecting in with yourself and just being. We don't do that enough. We get very distracted, but that is okay. So, yes, okay. So, we have surrender to receiving support and love. Allow the love and support of others in rather than trying to handle everything yourself. This can take the pressure off and simultaneously nurture you. Okay. And our last card for this week is surrender your addictions. Whether you're addicted to substances, food, sex, or overworking, take action to heal the addiction and replace it with something healthier. So we have all of these different energies showing up. So kind of as a really quick recap. So we have things are kind of going out of our hands in a way, right? Do all that you can, let it go, in the same way that you have to release a baseball or a bowling ball and the analogy at the beginning. Do all that you can, aim it as best you can, and let go, and then you get to see what happens. We also have the we have the intentionist prayer as well as coming up. So making sure you're being very intentional with what you're doing in that regard. There are some messages that had come up that are kind of gone for me at the moment. So make sure you listen back to the rest of the video. We also have the body earth contact of making sure you're taking that time to be out in nature, to bring things through you and get things out of the brain. That was one of the big things that was going on. So making sure you're going through exercise or walking or however you want to move your body is just very important as you're going through this. Kind of as I'm feeling into this now, for some of you, it will be helpful to have the blue-green labradorite, or I know someone who calls it labradorite, to each their own. That feels like a very much an energy of that transformation and shift. So if you have one of those, I would carry it this week. We also have non-action, surrendering your comparisons with others, surrendering to receiving loving support, and surrender your addictions. So making sure you're taking time with yourself and focus on your own lane. Stay in your own lane in this way, and make sure you're really focusing on yourself and how you can best love and support yourself, and also being open to receiving that support from others. While you're doing that, we also have the addictions card, where it's taking a look at those things that we become addicted to. Maybe it's social media, maybe it's reading novels and stuff that aren't great, or drinking or anything like that. Making sure you're taking a look at those and saying, do I want to keep letting these things hold me hostage, versus do I want to move forward and see what life has to offer? So that is your reading for January 12th through the 19th of 2025. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I will be seeing you guys next week. Bye for now.